Here we are on the front of our Keystone Arcadia 288 SLBH. We are going to do a technical walkthrough on your unit. Just like your delivery, we're going to touch on all the components on your unit. There's a lot more information that you can find on our helpful hacks section of the Great American RV YouTube channel. Now, the unit that we're going to go through today may differ from yours in some of the component brands. If you want a deeper dive into that information or operation on those components, or even these, there's much more information in that helpful hacks section. So let's get started here in the front. We have our kingpin where we'll hook up our hitch. We also have our 7-way plug right here. That 7-way plug is going to plug into our truck, and it will transfer the lighting for our running lights, our blinkers, all those things into our unit. And it will also supply a charge line for our battery system to charge that battery off the alternator of the vehicle while we're traveling down the road. The next important component we have on the front here is our breakaway. This is a 12-volt safety device that if pulled out, but due to a failure of the hitch, this device would pull out the pin and it would activate the brakes on our trailer. Now, one thing to be sure of is we need to hook this to one of the hooks on the bed of the truck or to the pins that are holding the hitch in, one of the two, but not the hitch itself. Because if the hitch fails, this is going with it and it's not going to do you any good. So make sure we're hooking that up properly. Also on our unit, we do have some lights up here in the front. We can notice our switch right here. This is for our docking lights. This will add a little bit of lighting to our front whenever we're hooking up. We're going to go over everything in that front compartment now. Here in our front compartment, you can notice we have our smart solar charge controller. This is to change our solar power voltage into charging voltage for our battery system. This can all be turned off by this disconnect right here. Just go into that off position, and this shuts down our solar system. Whenever we're parked and storing our unit and it's not plugged in, so we want to leave this system on. So we want to leave that disconnect right here for the solar system on, and it will charge even though our disconnect over here is off. So keep that in mind. But if for whatever reason you want to turn that solar system off, we can kick it off right there. It will not hurt anything if we leave it on while we're plugged into shore power. So you can leave it on all the time. It's all good. Down here, we have our battery disconnect, our regular disconnect right here. We have our power on option and our power off. This disconnect is for disconnecting the battery. It's almost like you're just taking the cables off of the battery and completely disconnecting it from your system. If we once again store our unit unplugged, we turn that disconnect off so it doesn't draw off of that battery and our solar system on, and it will charge that system. Now, if we are plugged into shore power when we are storing our unit or camping, anything of that nature, anytime we're plugged in, we want the power on so our converter system will charge our battery. Here we have our battery case right here. This is where we'll store our batteries. We can also notice on our sides that we have our leveling system, our jacks on the end. We have our control board up here for our leveling system that we'll go over as we go down the unit. Definitely something to take note of. Whenever we drop these landing gears and disconnect from our vehicle that we're using to tow, we want to use at least 5 to 6 holes down at the bottom so we can make sure that we have enough stroke on the jack to actually level out our unit. If we don't, it will run out of stroke and your unit will not level out. We'll notice as we move down the passenger side of our unit, we have our slide outs. All of our slide outs are cable driven, identified by the cables that we have on the top and bottom on each side of our slide out. This is a 12-volt operated component. We do have a great video that goes over the operation of these and how to override it in the event that something goes wrong. Moving down here, we have our solar on the side plug right here. This is if we park under some shade or anything, we want to go ahead and be able to still have solar charging on our system. We can buy a separate solar package and put that solar panel out in the sun and plug it in right here to go ahead and charge our system. Behind that, we have our compartment that stores one of our 2 LP tanks. We do have one on the other side. Our LP system is controlled by a dual propane regulator. This dual propane regulator has an auto changeover. There's a little valve on it that you can select which tank you are using. Once that tank goes dry, it will automatically swap over to the other tank. Now your lever will still be on the original tank that you were on, and your indicator for empty will show red. Now, once this indicator is moved to the other tank, it will show if it is full or empty as well, but just know that original tank needs to be filled once it shows red. We also have directions on our Lippert leveling system that we'll go over here in a minute. This is Bluetooth capable as well. It gives you instructions on how to set that up. Here we have our front pass-through bay with some lighting in here. And here we have our main convenience center that has all of our water hookups. Let's take a closer look at that. Here in our convenience center, we have our Key TV system. This is for our satellite and cable connections that go to the interior of the unit to hook to our TV. If we're hooking up satellite, we have a mobile satellite. We can set it up where we need and pull our coax in and put it to here and then run it to the receiver on the interior and hook it to our TV so we can have satellite. This is cable. We'll hook to our pedestal at the campground and run our coax into here, and we can scan for channels for cable in the interior. Now, if you install a rooftop satellite, it is pre-wired with a coax that goes to the roof, and we can take this and hook it into our satellite and hook up our receiver on the interior. Now, here we have our electronic leveling for our Lippert control system. This is electric jacks. So if we want to go ahead and operate, we turn that power on. Voltage is very important. If our batteries are low, this system is not going to work properly. As you can see here, we are given our voltage on that first screen. If we're disconnecting from our truck, pretty easy. We can go straight to our front right here. We want to drop and make sure we have those 6 holes like we talked about earlier, so we have enough length on our jacks. And just hold down that front button and our jacks will begin to extend. Now, if we are reconnecting, we've hooked our truck back up, we want to retract, hold down that retract button until it lights up, and once again, just hold that front down. Now, this gives us a manual option to be able to operate any of these jacks that way. We also have the option of actually going into our manual mode by hitting our arrow up. This will go into our manual leveling. We can hit enter, and then once again, we control all of these jacks by that. Now, the only difference is it gives us our degree marks so we can manually level our unit. As we change our level, we can see our degree marks change, and the ultimate goal is to get it down to 0. Now, one thing we'll notice in our manual mode is that we have these blinking lights right here on the rear and the left. This is to indicate that these are the sides that are low. So as we control our unit and lift it, we are going to turn those lights off, and that means that we have leveled our unit. Now, this is just to help indicate the areas that are low that we need to change and bring up in order to level our unit out. Once it is automatically leveled out, we should see 0 and 0 in the middle, and we're also going to see a green light right here in the middle, and all of these flashing lights will be off. Also, in our manual mode, we have that auto retract. This will retract all of our jacks on our unit. So we want to make sure that we don't have anything under the front tongue, kingpin, or anything under the unit, because once you hit enter, all of the jacks are going to retract and that unit is going to drop down. The next screen, if we hit our arrow button in manual, is going to show the stroke of our front jacks. This is how much they are extended out, and same thing for our rear jacks. Our next mode is our auto retract rear. If we want to just retract those rear jacks and leave our front landing gears alone, we can hit enter and it will retract just the rear. Our next mode is our auto retract all. Once again, make sure everything is clear from that unit. And our auto hitch height. So our auto hitch height is if we disconnect from our unit, and let's say our unit is pitched up, right? We've disconnected from our truck. What we want to do is immediately go into auto level. Our auto level is going to level out our unit automatically in the front and the rear and side to side. One thing we don't want to do during auto level is walk around in our unit, and we also want to make sure that our steps are up. Allow the unit to do what it needs to do and level out. Once it is complete, it will give you a green dot right here in the middle, and it will say everything is ready. So once that's done, go ahead and drop your steps down and camp. What it has done also is stored this auto hitch height. So now when we're done camping, we can just come to auto hitch height and we hit enter, and it will automatically bring that unit back to the pitch it was at when you disconnected from your truck, and it should have it leveled to where you can just back your truck into the front kingpin and hook up. From there, we'll go into auto retract all, and then we can lift all of our jacks and we'll be ready to hit the road. If we were to go in and manually change anything after it's done its auto level, there is a chance it erases our auto hitch height. So keep that in mind, go straight into auto level, let it level out, and don't change anything on it, and you won't lose your auto hitch height. So here we have a quick connect for our outside shower and sprayer. We have a coiled hose that we can go ahead and quick connect in there and use as a regular faucet with the shower head. Down here we have our connection for our city water, our tanks, everything else. So before I go into that, we want to point out we have our city water connection right here. This is where we're going to hook up our water hose that is supplied from our house or from our campground. That is where we hook it up and turn that water on, and it will supply water to our unit. Now, if we're using city water, obviously we can see our valve combination right here that we need to have it in. So we'll turn these valves to that combination and we'll supply water straight to our unit. Now, our fresh tank, if we don't have a water connection where we're camping, we want to go to our fresh tank. Now, in order to fill our fresh tank first, we're going to go to this power fill tank. We go ahead and hook up at our house. We hook that city water connection up here, and we go to power tank fill. This will fill our fresh water tank for our unit. So this is a storage tank where we can put water and bring with us. So if we're stopped at a rest area or something like that, at that point, we'll kick our 12-volt water pump on, and we'll pull water from that tank via the pump, and we will have to be in this combination right here for dry camping. Now, winterization. Winterization is when we're draining all the water out of our unit and we are ready to enter antifreeze into that unit so we can protect our pipes. Same thing, we are going to move it into this combination right here. This bypasses a few components on our unit, and we'll turn that city water connection on, and we'll hook our antifreeze up to the city water connection to fill our unit with antifreeze, and it will pump it out of there via that pump. The next is to sanitize to the tank via the pump. So same thing, we're going to turn to this combination right here, hook to our city water connection, and we can siphon water into that system to sanitize our tank. They have a lot more information about these combinations of options in your owner's manual, as well as your winterization technique in our owner's manual as well. Down here we have our black tank flush. This black tank flush is used to flush out our black tank system, which we'll go over next. So we can see down at the bottom we have black tank, gray tank, gray tank. Our black tank holds our sewage. Everything that comes from our toilet is going into the black tank. Want to make sure this valve is pushed in and closed whenever we are camping and in use of that tank. We don't want to have it open because all the liquids will come out of that tank, and any solids that are in there are going to dry up and they're going to stick to that tank, and you'll never be able to get them out. So we want to make sure that we leave that black tank closed, and we're always leaving several gallons of water in there and some chemicals. So once we're done camping, or our tank is full and we need to drain it out, we hook that 4-inch coupling down at the bottom below this system, and we hook our sewer hose up to the dump station at the campground, and we open that black tank. When we open it up, our sewage will begin to drain out of there. Now we want to flush our tank after that, so we hook a water hose up to this tank flush right here, and there is a spray nozzle port inside the tank that will begin spraying and try to flush out that tank system. Now it's not going to cover the entire tank, so you may have to do it a couple times. It will push as much as it can down to this valve. You may have to fill it up with a little bit of water and then drain it out, is one technique as well. Now when you're done flushing that tank out, you close this black tank valve off, and you want to add several gallons of water in it. You can either do that via your tank flush, running it 60 seconds or so and then shutting that water off, or you can go straight to your toilet and hold down the valve pedal and let the water go in there. From there, you want to add your chemicals in there through the toilet as well. Open that valve, drop your chemicals in. Whether you're storing it or beginning to use it again, that's the procedure you need to take. Flush your system out and add chemicals, and make sure you're leaving some water in that system. As you travel down the road, that water will help clean your tank system out as well. You do have your monitor panel on the inside that you can check to make sure that you're flushing your system out properly. It should show empty. Now here we have our gray tanks. Our gray tanks are going to be from our shower and our sinks. So one is going to be for your bathroom shower and sink, and one is going to be for your kitchen sink in your galley area. Once again, you have monitors for each of these tanks. Your gray tanks can be left open all the time if you were hooked up to a sewer connection at the campground. So rather than having to come out here and dump it every time it gets full, you can go ahead and leave them open and let the water drain out. Now, if you don't have that sewer connection, obviously you're going to have to leave those closed and then wait till you get to a dump station to empty. Now, oftentimes I'll tell customers, dump on the last night, close your gray tank valves, build some water up in that gray tank system, dump your black first the next day, and then dump your gray right behind it, and this will help flush out that sewer hose so it'll be nice and clean whenever you go to store it. We'll notice this cap down here at the bottom. This cap is to remove, and we can run our water hose through here and all of our connections. That way we can still close our door whenever we're ready to camp. So we were talking about our dump valves and everything in that convenience center. That dump station is right below it. This is where our hookup is to be able to hook that sewer hose up for our black tank and our gray tank dump. Here above we have our Girard tankless water heater system. This will give us endless hot water for our camping trips. We'll go over some more instruction on how that operates when we get to the inside controller. We also have our 50 amp twist lock plug right here. Pretty easy to operate. It is simple. We're going to just have our pins lined up whenever we go to plug it in, push it in, slight turn to the right to lock it in, and then we have our retainer ring to make sure that it doesn't come out, causing any arcing or surge on our unit. When we're ready to disconnect, loosen that retainer ring, twist to the left, and pull it out. We want to make sure that no appliances are on our unit, like our AC or anything 110 operated as much as we can. Not really worried about a microwave, just our ACs really, so we don't cause any surges in that system. So the first thing you want to hook up is this twist lock plug. Then you plug into your service at your campground, and then you can go ahead and turn on your appliances. We'll also notice underneath here we have our red and blue lines sticking out of that underbelly. Those are our low point valves. That is where we'll open up and drain our water out of our system whenever we're prepping for winterization. We have more information in one of our videos for winterization. On the rear of our unit, we have our manufacturer provided ladder to be able to access our roof. Now, it's very important that you access your roof every 60 to 90 days, and you're checking the sealant around all your vents, your drip edges, everything up there to ensure that there's no peeling, cracking, or anywhere where water can enter into your unit. If there is, you need to seal up over that. This is regular maintenance and considered customer maintenance that you need to take care of every 60 to 90 days. Manufacturers will not participate in any water entry due to a lack of maintenance. So this would be on the customer, any damages that incurred due to this. So make sure we're checking that sealant every 60 to 90 days. We also need to check the sealant all around the sidewalls of our unit. We have our edges right here where there's trim. We have anywhere where a screw is inserted, anywhere where we have a light or window, anything like that, we're going to have sealant around that and our compartment doors and so on. Once again, every 60 to 90 days, check that sealant for any peeling, cracking, or possibility for water entry. If we don't do that, manufacturers will void the warranty and not participate in any water damage. Want to make sure we take care of this, just like changing the oil in your car, so your camper will be in good shape for years to come. We also want to check our roof after trips to make sure we didn't drag any tree limbs across it or anything and put any holes in that roof. Anything like that would be considered an insurance claim, but make sure that we are covering that hole. We take pictures of it and cover that hole up or bring it into a shop so we don't cause any future damage to our unit and we can get that repaired properly. Up top, we also have our Keystone camera ready system. This is a pre-wired system for a camera system. If we can hook up a screen in our truck, install our camera up there, and it is pre-wired for the power for that camera so we can watch what's behind us while we're traveling and when we're backing up. Of course, we have our rear storage right here. We also have a receiver hitch down at the bottom. This receiver hitch is not for towing. It's not for pulling a golf cart behind us. It's for a luggage carriage or anything that we might want to put in the back It obviously isn't ready for towing because it doesn't have the holes for the tow hooks, and we don't have lighting providers here in the back. So this is just for outside carriage that we can install into that hitch for more storage. Under here, a little bit behind that receiver hitch, we'll also see a blue line sticking out with a valve. That is for our fresh tank. Now, we talked about how to fill that fresh tank in the front in that convenience center. Our fresh tank is meant to hold that water while we're traveling down the road, if we're going dry camping, something like that. Well, we don't want to hold on to that water if we don't need it. So that is where we want to drain it from that point right there at that blue hose with the valve, drain that water out. We also don't want to leave water in there when we store our unit because it's eventually going to become stagnant. So once again, open that valve, drain that water out of that system whenever we don't need it. So here on our passenger side, we can see this front compartment. We have another LP tank, and our dual propane auto changeover regulator is located right here. That indicator on the top showing whether that tank is full or empty. We have our pass-through storage right here, and we have our furnace. Our furnace is going to exhaust right here. Operation, of course, is from the inside, but we do want to know that this exhaust is going to get hot. It's a LP component. So it's going to light, you're going to have a little burner exhausting that hot air right there. So just be aware of that. Another thing we'll point out on our compartment doors, they all have this latch up here. We want to make sure we release that catch. And all of these compartment doors are slam latches, okay? So that means that you can take that door and drop it and slam it to make sure it shuts. If we just close it gingerly, we can make sure it latches that way as well. But it's okay to drop them down and latch them hard. So of course we have our awning, 12-volt controlled awning by a switch on the inside, extend and retract. If we have any issues with it, we want to go to that 12-volt fuse panel. Now when we use our awning, we need to make sure that we understand it is a sunshade only. It is not a rain shade. It's not intended to be left out in the rain. And it's also not intended to be left out in windy weather conditions. Anytime we leave our camper for an extended period of time, it's a great idea to just roll that awning in. Better safe than sorry. If you get any damages due to neglect, due to weather, wind, and rain events, it will end up being an insurance claim and not a warranty claim. So keep that in mind. We want to make sure we bring it in whenever the weather conditions aren't quite right. Otherwise, when we use our awning, we go ahead and extend it out, and we want to pitch it. We want to either pitch it to the front or the back. All it takes is just a little bit, and this is for runoff. For any light dew that we may get in the mornings, we want to allow that dew to run off. It is also for AC runoff. Our AC is going to produce condensation. That water is going to drip off the sides, and it may accumulate on the awning. We want to make sure that all drips off. So if we don't do that, water can compile in the middle of our awning, and it will be a big puddle and it will collapse. Now, once again, not warranty, it will be customer pay or insurance claim. So make sure that we are pitching that awning. In order to do that on these particular awnings, you may need a step stool in some cases, but there's two tabs up here on the arm. We're going to squeeze those tabs together, and we're going to slide and position that arm where it needs to be. And you can see some holes there on the side where those tabs, those pins will eventually slide into place. And like I said, we're going to pitch that awning either in the front or the back. It doesn't matter. Most customers tend to do the back. That way you don't have any water gathering in this front area. Whenever you're ready to roll that awning in, we want to go ahead and put it back in the correct position. So squeeze those tabs once again and slide it down to the bottom position. Our entry door is friction controlled on our hinges, so you're going to feel some resistance when you open and close that door. This is to control it if the wind ever blows so it doesn't slam that door shut. We don't have to worry about those pesky latches down at the bottom that always end up breaking. We also have our screen door on here. We go ahead and pull that handle to release it. Got that bug screen, and we can close and latch it onto our frame to release it. Open it up like that, and we can reattach it to our entry door. Down here we have our entry steps. These are our Lippard solid steps right here. To pick our steps up, simply pick them up at the bottom. We're going to lift them up. We're going to make sure our door is open enough to where we're clearing that. And we have this little pull latch here on the left side. We want to just pull that latch, make sure it gets all the way into the frame. Give it a little tug, make sure it's tucked in there properly, and then we can close our entry door. If we don't do that, we could cause damage to our doors. When we're ready to drop those legs out, we pull that latch in and slide it out of the frame, and we drop it down. Now, as mentioned before, we want to make sure these steps are up when we do that auto level on our unit. Otherwise, it can cause some issues. If we drop them down, that unit is leveling, it'll twist the frame of these steps. So best thing to do is auto level before you even open this entry door up. Once we are auto leveled, we also need to level our steps out. Our pitch may change from the last time we used them. So to do that, we have these pull pins down here at the bottom. We can simply lift our steps up a little bit, pull that pin, and we can adjust our legs down here at the bottom to whatever we need to level out our steps. We also want to make sure that our steps clear our door frame. When we open and close that door, we want to make sure that we aren't hitting our door, our frame of our steps right here, and make sure that our threshold is nice and level right here. Otherwise, it'll damage this door frame whenever we're opening and closing. When here we also have our grab handle to store it. We'll just pull it to the side as we lift up to have it out front, lift up, pull to the front. We have our speakers right here for our radio system, controlled by our radio on the interior. Up here we have our vent. This vent is for our stovetop, that fan over it to exhaust out of here. There are a couple little twist tabs on there you want to turn so that vent can open up and exhaust properly. Whenever we're not using it, we want to close those up when we store our unit to make sure we don't get any rodents, bugs, or anything like that building a nest up there. Down here we also have our key TV antenna and satellite hookup. We want to hook up cable or antenna to our TV. We'll hook it up right here, as well as satellite to a receiver and then to our TV. We have our 110 outlet. Our 110 outlet is GFCI protected, meaning that if it trips out due to an oversurge or gets wet or anything like that, it's not going to work, and we're going to our GFCI outlet generally in our bathroom. We'll cover that whenever we go to the interior on how to reset that. Here at the rear of our unit, we have our outdoor kitchen area. We have a 110 operated dorm fridge right here. This dorm fridge is going to turn on anytime we plug our service into our 50 amp, 30 amp, or 15 amp service. This unit's going to come on unless we turn that breaker off on the interior. Now, this is pretty important because anytime we turn this on, it's going to begin to cool. It has a little freezer section in there that's going to begin to freeze. When we unplug our unit, it's going to defrost. If we defrost and we don't clean the water and everything out of here and wipe it down, two things are going to happen. We're going to have mold and mildew in our fridge, and that water that defrosts in the freezer section is going to puddle at the bottom, and it's going to leak out of this refrigerator, and it's going to cause damage to the wood down here. So either turn that breaker off whenever you are not using that fridge, or we can go ahead and clean it out every time it turns on. Make sure we get all the moisture out of here, wipe it down real good, and get the water out after we defrost it so it doesn't damage our wood components down here that is not going to be covered under warranty. Here we have our LP griddle controlled by our propane tanks in the front. If we pull these two blue tabs right here out, we can pull our griddle out until it locks in, and we can just keep lifting, and our griddle will come and extend all the way out. I have a series of LP hoses right here. We have our quick connects. This is our female to male quick connect right here that we will hook up. And then we have another female to male hook up right here. Simply place that in. And we'll also notice on here we have a valve. So we want to turn that valve straight and open. Otherwise, we will have no LP flow to our griddle to operate it. So whenever we disconnect it, obviously it's not going to let us disconnect because that valve is open. We would have to close that valve, then we can disconnect that connection right there. Now, before we store this, we also have to disconnect all those hoses once again. Otherwise, they are going to get tangled up whenever we go to store that back in the system. So to do that, once again, turn your valve off, disconnect that here, and then we can flip up our griddle, lock it in, push in until those tabs lock, and then we can close our compartment. So here we have our main control panel by the stairs. As we come into our unit, we can see up here we have our monitor panel. This is for our fresh tank, our batteries, our black tanks, and our gray tanks. Now your unit only has one black tank, but it is a generic panel, so it's going to show 2 on here. You do have 2 gray tanks, however, so we can monitor that through here. You'll see this FLT light right here. This means nothing because you do have the Girard tankless water heater system. So this is set up for a different type of system, so you can ignore that. Here we have our water pump. This is what we kick on to pull water out of that fresh tank and supply water to our fixtures when we don't have a water hookup at the campground. For tank heaters, for colder weather, we don't want them to freeze. We can turn that fresh tank and black and gray tank heaters on, and this will heat those tanks so that water doesn't freeze during cold conditions. Now below it, we have our ceiling lights for our interior in the living room. We have our awning lights, of course. Then we have our night light in the hallway. Here we have our slide out controls, those cable driven slides on the left and the right, and then our awning in the middle to extend and retract all of those. All of these components are all 12 volt operated, so if we have any issues, we want to go to that 12 volt fuse panel first in order to check and make sure we don't have any blown fuses. Here we have our AirXL or Coleman thermostat. This will operate our living room air, that rooftop air in there. So we'll start with our fan mode. We have low and high. All this is going to do is turn that fan on and circulate air throughout our unit. It's not going to cool it. We have to go into our next mode, which would be cool. Now we also have the options for high and low and auto high and low. Now what this does, this will cool the air in our unit as it distributes it through those vents in the roof. Now one thing we want to keep in mind is that high and low on auto, that fan is going to shut off when the compressor shuts off. If we want that fan to stay running all the time, we have to cycle through right at the beginning of cool, and we can see we have high and low, and that fan will stay running all the time regardless of if the compressor turns off or on. Now once again in auto, it will shut off when the compressor shuts off, and then we'll just set our temperature wherever we want it inside our unit, and we'll get to that temperature. Now our next mode is our heat mode. Our heat mode is supplied by that gas operated furnace down there on our unit, and we set it to the proper temperature and it will begin to heat our unit. So our air is going to come out of our floor line vents and not through that rooftop on the heater. Our next option is off. That will shut that AC system off. All of your air for your AC will be coming from those ceiling ducts up top. Now we can see up here, this is our ceiling assembly for our AC system. This one has 2 black knobs right there. You can open with a coin or a flathead screwdriver, and that will drop down the filter for our AC. We want to make sure we're monitoring that and keep it clean or replace it whenever necessary, just like we would our household filter. Otherwise, it will restrict the air on that AC and it won't cool efficiently. So make sure we're monitoring that properly. And once again, our air conditioner air or fan air will be coming out of those vents along the roof line. So here we are in our bathroom. We have our GFCI receptacle right here. We talked about that on the outside. You're also going to have other GFCI protected receptacles in our kitchen or wet areas. So in order to operate this, you're going to have 2 buttons. We're going to hit reset if in the event that those outlets are not operating. You would generally have a red light right there, and that's when we want to hit that reset button and reset it like we would a breaker. If we want to test those GFCI outlets, we have that test button down here at the bottom. We click that, our red light turns on, and we shouldn't have any power to those outlets out there. To reset that system, once again, hit that reset button. Next to it, we have our Girard tankless water heater system. We go ahead and we have our on-off button and our up and down to change the temperature to whatever temperature we want it to produce, and our Celsius Fahrenheit button right there to the left. Now, when we have this system on and we turn on our hot water, this system is going to light up, and we're going to see an indicator down at the bottom right that is going to be a shower head. This lets us know that water is in use in our camper. And to the left side, we're going to see a little fan blowing. That means that our blower is activating on our tankless water heater system. And then eventually in the middle, we're going to see a little flame pop up. That means that our burner has ignited on that system and that it is heating the water. Above it, our selected temperature has now changed to our output temperature. So this is the temperature of the water coming out of our tankless water heater system. So we can monitor that and see once it reaches that set point temp. Now these systems only run for 20 minutes and then they shut off as a safety concern. So once it shuts off, you will begin to get cold water again. That's okay. Turn your system off, turn the water off, and then turn it back on, and it will reignite that system and start that 20-minute timer over again. It is suggested that once you get to the campground, the first thing you want to do is bleed the air out of your system by going to your stove top. We'll talk about that when we get over there, but you want to do that before you operate things like your furnace and your tankless water heater system to make sure that you don't have air in your system. Also in our bathroom, of course, we have our shower and our toilet. Our shower has our glass doors. We have a travel latch right here. Anytime we're in travel, we want to make sure those doors are latched so we don't break that glass. We're going to open that up, and on our shower head, we have this on-off button on here. What this is used for is to help conserve water. If we are dry camping, we don't have a dump station, we want to conserve the amount of water we put in our gray tank. We also want to conserve the amount of water we use out of our fresh tank. So in order to do that, we go ahead and turn our shower on, we go ahead and get wet, and we turn this shower head off, and we don't have to worry about trying to find that sweet spot on our valve for our hot-cold mixture right there. We can just go ahead and click this off. It'll save that settings basically in there. We lather up with soap, kick that shower head on, and we can rinse off without having to fight with the nozzles to find that temperature. Now, little tip, whenever you turn the shower head on at first, that water is going to be a little cold for the first couple seconds until the hot water travels back through that hose. So shoot it off to the wall and don't freeze yourself out. Last thing we need to cover in our bathroom, of course, is our toilet. Our toilet, if we're doing number 1 and it's just liquids, we can just flush that down. If we're going with solids, we want to hold that pedal down just a little bit and fill the bowl about 3/4 of the way up. And that's to make sure that we have enough water in that bowl that when we flush the solids, it has enough water to push it down the pipe into that black tank. If we don't do that, we can cause some issues with our plumbing. Now, besides that, normally operated toilet, we want to make sure we don't put any products that don't belong in there, like feminine products or anything like that. RV toilet paper only, that way it decomposes properly. And of course, this is where we're going to go to put our chemicals in as well. Not too much to go over in our front bedroom. Of course, we do have another vent up here, and we are pre-wired for a second AC system. That pre-wiring includes a 110 wiring up here. We can have that AC system installed right here, and the breaker's already installed as well. And over here, we have our mounting location for our second TV in our bedroom. We have our satellite and cable antenna hookup right there for our Key TV system. We also have storage under our bed. If we lift it up, we have a nice bit of storage under that front bed. As we come into our entry door, we'll also find our COLP detector down here. This is going to alert us of any gases that are harmful to us. It will alert us and we need to exit our unit. Now we want to test this once a month by holding down that button on there and making sure that it alerts. And we also want to keep that area clean around it. Don't spray any Lysol abrasives or anything, just dust it off. This is a 12-volt operated safety component, so I want to make sure that our 12 volts is nice and good whenever we operate our unit. Also want to check our battery level on our smoke detector device as well. In this cabinet right here, we'll notice our 110 and 12-volt control center. This is where we'll find all our 110 breakers and our 12-volt fuses as well. If we have any issues with our appliances or our 12-volt systems, we want to come here first and check to make sure that everything is on and no fuses are blown. Now in our kitchen area, we have our standard 110 microwave right here above our stove top. We have that exhaust fan we talked about outside. We want to make sure those tabs are open so it'll exhaust out. And our 12-volt light right here, both of these 12-volt operated components. Now our gas stove has a glass cooktop that we want to go ahead and open up in order to operate our stove. We have 3 burners to choose from here. Want to make sure our gas is on outside, and we'll come to this stove top, pick our burner, kick it on to where that flame icon is, and then we're going to hit our manual ignite over here knob, that manual ignite knob over here to the left. you'll notice that all 3 burners spark no matter what option you have for which burner. Eventually that burner will light up. Now that's what I was talking about earlier when you might have air in your system. If you've just brought your unit out of storage, you had your tanks off, or you just changed out your tanks, you're going to end up having some air in those propane lines. So in order to operate and get that air out, once again, you're just choosing a burner, you're turning it on, and you just keep turning this knob. Now, because this process may take a little while, another option is to take a long stem lighter, turn it to that fire icon, and you just hold it to the burner, and eventually it will light up rather than having to keep turning that knob. So that's a little hack for you. We want to do this, and once it lights, we want a nice crisp blue flame up here up top. Let it run for about 30 to 60 seconds. Make sure we got all the air out of the system. And I would do this before I operate things like our furnace and our water heater, so we don't run across any faults on that system due to air in our lines. I definitely do it before we do our oven down here at the bottom. Our oven is operated pretty much the same way. We're going to turn that knob to the fire icon, and we're going to hold that knob down in order for that gas to come out of our pilot down there. And then we can go ahead and once again turn that igniter knob until it lights. Once that pilot lights, we're still holding our knob down for another maybe 30 seconds to warm up that pilot thermocouple. Once we believe it's warmed up enough, then we turn it to our proper temperature that we want. Then our burner will go ahead and light up and expel gas through our system, allowing us the temperature that we need to cook in there. Over to the side, we have a knob. Number 1 is just the lights here. Number 2 is the lights here and our oven down at the bottom. Whenever we're in travel, we want to make sure that this cooktop cover right here is closed. That way that glass does not break whenever we are in travel. Next, we have our Furrion 12-volt refrigerator with a freezer and refrigerator down at the bottom. It is controlled with our knob down here at the bottom. We can go ahead and turn it to cold or colder. We also have that off position whenever not in use. Now, same thing as our outside refrigerator. There's no drain tubes on these refrigerators or freezers. So when we are done using our unit, we want to defrost this freezer, get all the water out of it, and wipe down our refrigerator, get all the water or droplets or moisture that's in there out. That way we don't have any mold or mildew in there, and we don't leave a puddle of water in our freezer that can drip out and damage our wood components around our unit. If we don't do that, once again, warranty is not going to cover it. So make sure that we are defrosting this properly. We can also leave our doors open for a little while, let it air out as well. Now here we have our entertainment center. Hooked to our TV is that Key TV system. From our cable or antenna port, it'll be hooked straight to here. And we'll go through our menu items and scan for channels. We'll scan for channels no matter if we swap position 50 feet over or whatever. If we're doing air antenna, you may pick up other channels. Now, if you have cable at the campground, same thing, you'll scan for cable channels. If you have satellite, you'll set up that satellite dish, and out of that back satellite port, you're going to hook to the receiver first, and then HDMI to your TV through your dish network or DirecTV service. Below that, we have our Furrion soundbar down here. Zones 1 and 2. Zone 1 will be our interior speakers. Zone 2 will be those exterior speakers. And this will also provide sound from our TV. Now, we also have a radio option on here as well as Bluetooth. We can hook our phone to and play Bluetooth through this speaker or for our outside speakers as well. You do have an HDMI input right here. You can hook a gaming system up or something, and you can run from there into our TV. Down here we have our fireplace. We do have a remote for it as well. We'll have that power option. We can change our lighting effects down here as well. Now our temperature can change with that button right there or through our remote. And we have some options on here where we can run a timer. We can have just the lights turn on for ambient so it doesn't have to heat. That fan system can be shut off through that remote. We would just keep moving our temperature until we hit that off mode. Once it hits that off mode, it'll say OF on that little display down there at the bottom right, at the top right, and show off. That heater will turn off, and it will just leave our lighting system for our ambiance. Like I said, there's a timer we can run on here. This heater is electric. It's not gas powered, so if you don't like the smell of gas heat, you can just kick this on, and it does a pretty good job of heating up your unit. Now on here, we also have our pantry. If we undo our travel cable latch that we need to have on here while we're traveling down the road, give it a yank, and we have our pantry entry right here. There's a little light switch on the left to turn that light on, and we have storage in our pantry. Of course, whenever we are done and we are ready to hit the road, make sure it's closed properly, and we take that little bungee cord and we hook it on our hook so this doesn't swing open during travel. Speaking of entertainment, we also have our 4G LTE Wi-Fi WineGuard system. This is hooked to our WineGuard 360 antenna up top. If we purchase the router upgrade and install it on here, it will provide us with an amplifier for our Wi-Fi at the campground. We can also activate a SIM card with a wireless company, and it will provide us with 4G Wi-Fi wherever we're at. Not much to go over in our bunkhouse area. Our lights are controlled by a push button on the light. We do have another cable, antenna, and satellite key TV box right here for another TV and a 110 outlet for power. Our recliners are controlled with a little lever down here on the side pull cable. We pull on that and it will recline. We do have a heating option right here on the left and also a vibrating massage option there as well. We have a little LED light button that'll light up the lights down here at the bottom. And we have our wireless battery charger for our phone system right here as well. Just lay our phone on top of there and it'll charge our battery. Our dinette booth can sleep extra people as well. We just dropped this table down. There's this latch right here. We pull that latch down and we can just push our table to where it hits those bumpers at the bottom. Once it's down there, we take our cushions, lay them flat, and we can sleep on this area as well. To get it back up, simply slide it up, and we're going to close that lever, and it should fold into position.
Well, we hope you found that resourceful, but wait, there's more information on our Great American RV YouTube channel. This channel right here, find the playlist Cap's Helpful Hacks. We go over different products in this unit, and we'll take a deeper dive with more diagnostics, more information, as well as helpful tips when you're out camping. Tell your buddies, tell your friends, like, share, subscribe, do all those awesome things on YouTube, TikTok, wherever you found us, and keep watching here at Great American RV SuperStores. We bring the how-to you.